Hey guys, it's Lauren. I am back for podcast episode number 2. Before we get into it, I just want to really thank you guys for the feedback I received on the first episode. I was super nervous to upload it. I didn't know if I sounded eloquent or I was even making any sense, but a lot of you guys resonated with it so strongly, which is what made me so excited to film episode 2, because you guys have been sending in the most awesome ideas that I feel like I could talk about for so long. So I just really want to thank you guys for being just so interactive with me and providing such nice and clear feedback, because I really want to produce, again, something that's going to resonate with people, and it's super niche, but I'm glad that I can fulfill that in any way that I can. So let's get into episode 2. Most highly requested thing to talk about was editing drama and how the editing community may be really toxic. So this kind of encompasses a lot, and people have asked me, have you ever gotten an editing drama? Have you ever seen the community be toxic? I've been editing since 2017. I was in the Riverdale fandom. So yes, this has happened to me on multiple occasions. Some very extreme cases, which I'll get into more details about my personal experiences later. I want to first help you guys maybe better understand why all of this toxicity occurs in the first place. And because it's a type of toxicity and a type of drama that you don't see in real life. And it's obviously because people feel more confident and bold online, they don't have to publish their real persona. But in general, online communities are way more toxic than communities that exist in the real world. And think of any fandom. It could be literally any fandom. And then think of a club that you've been in, been a part of in real life. For me, I was a part of a research club. I was a part of the newspaper club. There are sports clubs, literally anything you can think of. Have you had beef with hella people? Do you remember yourself having actual beef with these people? No, because things that people say online obviously don't translate to what they'd say in the real world. But I think that's a pretty widely understood kind of sentiment. I don't know. Sometimes it's just funny to think about, because it's in real life, you wouldn't go up to someone and say oh, your painting looks like crap. But a lot of people feel comfortable just commenting this edit is bad. Not to say it's the exact same thing, but you get my point. So to help you guys understand this toxicity, we first need to understand the social aspect of the editing community, and specifically what drives editors to act in these rude and outrageous ways. And these are kind of psychoanalysis, personal, I feel not super deep dives, but I don't know, you can tell when people are acting in strange ways for others' validation. So I'll just get into my points. So number 1, why are people rude? Why are there bullies in the editing community? They use it as an intimidation tactic to just gain respect. We've all been in those group chats where there's one person who's so obviously trying way too hard to come off as rude and edgy. They'll respond dryly and really sternly to everyone, and they're just really unwelcoming and unsettling. But nevertheless, we're sometimes we're so desperate to make friends and connections that we will justify this behavior as funny or iconic, and we'll either just accept it and still be friends with this person, or we'll even start to mirror it and replicate it. If someone's being mean but you respect them and you think they're cool, you might just start being mean too, and not even just within a group chat, to other people. And it's kind of crappy how I don't know, it just takes one bad apple to just infiltrate a group chat, change everyone's behavior because everyone respects them, and then people who were nice and cool and whatever are suddenly just the worst people you've ever met. You get what I mean? I am not proud to admit it. There were times I've been in chats where I just wanted to impress someone who seemed cooler or had more followers. So I'd just say unnecessarily negative and toxic things just to make someone laugh or to get a reaction out of them. And I was what, 14, 15? I'm not talking outrageously bad things. I was probably just talking bad about Riverdale characters, but just being probably unnecessarily shady. Oh, you don't stand Bughead? You're literally a flop. And it's okay, it's not the worst thing ever, but it's you're just being unnecessarily annoying and mean. But it's crazy because in my last podcast, I spoke about wanting to receive validation from other editors in the form of likes and followers. But just as much as that, we also crave social validation from other editors. And this aspect of social validation is honestly what makes us feel connected to the community that doesn't exist physically. Like, yeah, liking and commenting on other people's edits, like that's a nice way to show support, but it's really when we're in those group chats and, you know, we're chatting and maybe talking about like more personal aspects of our life and just really getting close with these people. That's what makes the editing community a community. But yeah, my main point, we all want to make friends. We all want to feel immersed in this community. So unfortunately, sometimes there's just a lot of social pressure and peer pressure to act in certain ways that you think are gonna, you know, make you more friends, even maybe gain you more followers. It's all just like, it's a really big social game and it's just really convoluted, especially in the 5 years I've been in it. But yeah. So point number 2 on why people may act crappily in the editing community. This one's kind of straightforward, but they're insecure about their own work. If they think their stuff is bad, they are going to project. This happens in the real world too. So a lot of the times, if someone's commenting on your edit like, this is bad, you know, maybe the call is coming from inside the house. Maybe you want to go check out their profile and see, okay, I see what's going on here. And moving on to the third and final point. Sometimes people are literally just clout chasers and it's so simple that like you can't even be mad over it. Like these are mainly in TikTok comment sections. They just want to argue for the hell of it. They just want to like be rude unnecessarily. But it's like big fan behavior at the same time because these are the people who are always like commenting on every single one of your videos. Like they don't even follow you, but you know, do you still have my notifications on somehow because you're in every single video? And like no shade, maybe some shade. This one might be the most pathetic because it's like, there's not even any psychoanalysis I can give you. Like, at the end of the day, you are just bored. Like, please get a job, get a hobby. Anyway, all right, now I want to get into, like, editing group chats, what exactly they are, what usually goes on in them, and I guess, like, how those can be, like, toxic and drama-filled. As I mentioned previously, I was in the Riverdale fandom from 2017 to like 2020, 2021. And I feel like there was always something going on, whether it was people fighting about ships, people fighting about like who was the better Riverdale editor. And that was like also largely based off of like who your favorite ship was or who your favorite characters were. So it was like really trivial stuff like that. And then sometimes it was other like more, I guess, personal reasons. But I feel like to a certain extent, it was almost performative in the sense that like people just like wanted there to be drama so they could take like a million screenshots and then like people were screenshotting from other people's stories and then like the quality gets so bad because everyone's just reposting it. And I'm just like, is there like an actual problem here? Or do we all just like want to create a problem where there really isn't one? Like, I don't know. It just felt like to a certain extent, maybe you need a little bit of like drama and toxicity and problematic people for like a fandom to really, really be a fandom. You know what I mean? Like it sounds horrible, but like, have you ever been in a fandom where there wasn't like bad apples, where there weren't annoying people? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a secret recipe to any fandom. But like, yeah, I felt like there was always something. And I'm going to share oh my God, this is going to be really funny. I'm going to share 2 personal experiences I had with, well, one of them was nearly being canceled in the Riverdale fandom. Another one was me just being talked about in group chats. So I'll talk about the less like severe one, which was the group chat one. Basically, it was like probably 2021. I don't know, maybe COVID. But I was like whipping out a lot of edits. Like I was finally gaining some followers. I think maybe I started posting tutorials on YouTube like right at the beginning. And there was this group chat. Should I name? I'm not going to name drop it because like whatever. But it was a Riverdale editing group, more specifically like Lily Reinhart. And groups are like a whole other thing. If you've ever been in a group or know about groups, they are always chatting. They're like, it's just like a lot. So I used to be in groups and then I just like decided against it at some point because I was like, I cannot maintain this. Like in groups, you have like WhatsApp and Instagram DMs and like maybe Discord, and it's just like a lot of talking, a lot of like responsiveness. And I was just more like low key, maybe just like want to DM people individually. So I stopped with all of that. But it was an editing group.
I think I followed one person in the group, and they're actually like a really good friend to me. Like I knew them for a while, like just really nice editor, super kind. And the other people in this group, more specifically, of course, it was the founder of the group. They're all talking about me. Oh, she's overrated. Oh, this and that. Like, the edits aren't even that good. The YouTube, this and that. So, obviously, there was a snake. Like, the friend told me. Well, obviously, they weren't a snake to me. But they basically, like, DM'd me. And they were like, they sent me screenshots of what everyone was saying. And I was like, it's so funny because, like, I know where this bitterness is coming from. It's a mixture of jealousy and boredom. Like, maybe if you took that energy and put it into, like, editing, right? And, like, improving those skills, like, you wouldn't have to be calling me overrated because maybe we would be on the same pedestal. You get what I mean? And, like, not to sound harsh with it, like, I mean, do I have hard feelings about this, like, 3 years later? No, I, like, find it funny, but, like, the most interesting part of me reading these messages, like seeing these screenshots, was like what I mentioned earlier. The one taking reins and like really like putting out all the insults towards me was the leader of the group, right? And all the other people, I remember the other people in the group, like some of them were kind of agreeing, but some of them were like, no, like Lauren's like cool, whatever. And the owner is still kind of making jabs at me, and like some people are going along with it. You can tell some people are like about it, but it's like sometimes there are just bitter people who will like ruin the dynamic of an entire group chat. And then like you wonder like, why is everyone like letting them stay in authority? Like if everyone feels uncomfortable around them, no one likes them. Like, and again, this is going to sound like harsh, but I'm just trying to make the point that sometimes we're just really desperate to like maintain a group of editing friends or have an active group chat that like we don't want to disrupt the equilibrium of that. Calling someone out in a group chat is inherently a very awkward and tense thing. So people might just, in that example that I told you about, they're just going to go along with it because even if they don't agree with what she's saying and they actually do like me, at the end of the day, it might just feel easier to, like, keep your mouth shut. Because you also don't know, like, who else in the chat, like, is on your side, has the same opinions as you. It can be a really tricky situation because, like, putting so many people together, you think you know everyone, but, like, how much can you really know about a person when it's online and, like, the bulk of what you're talking about is, not to say it's superficial, but you're talking about just, like, a lot of editing stuff, and you're talking about other editors and shows and this and that. So it's, like, yeah, you can obviously get to know people, and I have very, very, like, real lifelong friends I've made from the editing community, but a lot of the times, these friendships are just weird. Like, they're formed on, like, weird power imbalances where you have certain people, like, taking reins, and then other people just going along with it because they want to have some friends, and, like, I've experienced this, like, way too many times. So, like, if you've ever been in a situation like this, like, I know it sucks. Like, I think coming across friends in the editing community is just like, I wouldn't say just like, but think about it like finding the love of your life. Not everyone is going to be for you. The first friend you make in the editing community, like, they don't have to be like the one person you stick with, or like you don't have to collect editing friends like infinity stones. I think to really protect yourself and make sure that you're kind of using your time online wisely, like be kind of aware of the relationships you're forming, and don't just go along with what everyone else is saying, or if someone has more followers than you, what they're saying, because if your goal is to actually like integrate yourself into an online community, which like I highly recommend because I love like actually having real editor friends and like people I feel like I can trust. If you're looking for something like that, you have to stop like seeking validation, I guess, from the wrong people. And like these kind of wrong people I'm talking about, like there are bullies in any fandom, there are bullies in the editing community, and I wouldn't say that's like a large bulk of the editing community, but it definitely happens. Like that's why you guys asked me to do an episode on this, because there are bullies, there are like really just mean people. All right, and now let's talk about my near cancellation experience. This one was like, this actually really messed me up. Like I hate to admit it because it's like Riverdale, it's never that deep, but like it was really bad. So I think it was 2019, and I made a Bughead edit to Umbrella by Rihanna, and for the intro clip I had used a scene from Riverdale, which like thinking back on this, was this like distasteful? Probably, but like my brain's not fully developed. I'm really just wanting it to be emotional. And like, it's a Riverdale edit at the end of the day. Like, bear with me. But basically in the scene, like a kid, I guess, falls out the window. Like he like jumps out the window, and then Betty like runs toward the window, sorry, and she's like crying. And then like Jughead is like consoling her. And I use that as the intro to kind of segue into like the rest of the edit where like Jughead is comforting her, right? I didn't think anything of it. I posted it. Tell me why overnight I have hundreds of comments, hundreds of DMs, or not hundreds of DMs, but just like a lot of feedback being like, oh, so you're glamorizing suicide. Like, you think it's okay to use this as the intro for a romance edit and like glamorize. And I was like, whew, okay, where do I even begin with this? Obviously, the goal was not to glamorize suicide. I think if this happened in 2023 and that was like an actual accusation, I think people would be more like logical and be like, no, it's just a Riverdale scene. There's murder and kidnapping and infidelity and time travel and demons in every episode of Riverdale. So me using this scene is like I was just like really taken aback, and my immediate reaction was just to like defend myself, being like, what are you guys talking about? Like I absolutely obviously meant no harm with this. And I felt really frustrated because I felt like people wanted to find a reason to be upset with me, like for whatever reason. Maybe I was getting a lot of like views and followers, and like people didn't like that. People thought I was overrated. Just like in the editing group, they were talking about how I was overrated, and I just felt so frustrated because I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong or with ill intent, but it seemed like everyone had an issue with it. Like one person decided to point it out. It was literally one person, I remember who, and suddenly everyone has a problem with it. And I was like, oh, I see what's going on here. Like, I'm sure you guys actually all totally care about this, right? You all really care about this because I'm just being super disrespectful to suicide. Like, that's why you care about this, right? It's not because you have some weird personal vendetta against me. It's not because one person posted it and you respect them so much and you want them to like you, so you're gonna repost it as well. And then also when I posted that edit, like, I didn't even regard that scene as something that was like really disturbing. Like, you don't see like anything graphic, so I just posted it, whatever. And a lot of people, along with saying that I was glamorizing suicide, apparently they were commenting like, oh really, like no trigger warning. So I added a trigger warning like upon seeing one comment that said you should add a trigger warning. I was like, okay, if this can be triggering for even one person, sure, I'll add a trigger warning. So I added a trigger warning like to the location, and I responded to the comment and apologized. And even after I did so, people were still coming down my throat being like, oh, but you added it too late. Like, you only added it because people said so. I'm like, I'm a bad person for adding it after people asked. Like, I'm sorry, sometimes like things slip people's minds, and like personally, genuinely, when I was making a Bughead edit, I didn't think like trigger warning was warranted. But even when people said like this could be triggering, I said, okay, I'll add a trigger warning. And still that wasn't enough, which again made me realize like people kind of seem like they just wanted something to be mad at, but I don't know. But then I was like, I can't react in a way that's like, F all of you, like you're all wrong, because like, number one, if it did like truly offend someone, like I'm gonna address that. And two, like it was just a losing battle. Like at that point, I just had to surrender and be like, okay, I guess I'm the worst. And this filled me with like so much anxiety, like just because of how my notifications were getting flooded, that I ended up deactivating my account for like a week or so, and then I deleted the edit, and when I reposted it, I just cropped out the beginning where like the kid falls, even though like you literally cannot see him falling or hit the ground or anything like that. And I wasn't thinking that obviously when I was using the Bughead scene, but like, oh god. I remember that being a really big moment for me, realizing like, ugh, is this really like a fun community where people actually support each other? And you know what? I'm actually grateful for the experience though, because it made me realize like you don't have to be for everyone. like before this experience, I wanted everyone to like me because it was like I wanted Bughead people to like me. I wanted Barchi shippers to like me and like all like there was so much disconnect and like ship wars and fighting in the Riverdale fandom, and I didn't want to be caught in the crossfire. Like just because I was a Bughead editor, I didn't want to be hated by like people who liked other characters or other ships. So, like, was I kind of a kiss ass? Like, probably. I probably didn't defend myself enough. And after this experience, it made me realize, like, what do I owe anyone if, like, regardless of if I do something with good intention, bad intention, like, they could pick out a problem with it, like, literally in the blink of an eye, like, anything I do. So at that point, I realized I have to stop trying to please everyone because at the end of the day, no matter how perfect you are, no matter what you do, no matter how kind you are, some people are just miserable. There are some miserable people out there and they're just not going to like you. So I really, like, not to say I, like, cut down, like, my friendship circles or whatever. I think I just started, like, sharing less of myself, like, through my edit account. And if I, like, wanted to talk to someone, I wouldn't, like, post it on my story, for example. I would just, like, DM close friends who I trusted. And I think after that experience, I was also very much less involved in the fandom aspect of, like, owning a Riverdale editing account. What I mean by that is, like, I think I was interacting with less edits. Like I said, I was, like, posting less on my actual account and my story about the Riverdale episodes. Like, I really, at this point, just wanted to post my edits and then go. And then, like, come check back in, talk to a couple friends, and then go. Because I just felt like it was just so tense at that point, and that, like, I didn't want to do anything wrong, even without meaning to do anything wrong.
Okay, so I've talked a lot about, like, the social toxicity that can occur in the editing community and people just, like, being bullies in general. But there's a whole other form of toxicity that more so pertains to, like, artistic integrity and, like, people stealing your ideas. So we all know this happens on a daily basis. This has more likely than not probably happened to you. And obviously, like, this happens to me a lot now, like, with people remaking my edits, but it doesn't bother me, like, in 2023, because, like, people are gonna steal my stuff regardless. But the grand majority of people probably know, like, okay, this is Lauren's edit, so I don't really worry about that now. But obviously, when I was running my Riverdale page, not as many followers, when people would steal my edits or copy my ideas, like, that really, it would get to me. And of course, I have a specific story time for when this happened to me, and it was probably the most frustrating thing that's ever happened to me. So I'm editing Riverdale. The year is probably, I want to say 2019, because by this point I had, like, already kind of established, like, my style, and it's different from my style now, but at the time that was my 2019 style with my Bughead edits. And it was kind of specific types of warps, shakes, like transition combinations. But I remember I had a mutual who was also a Bughead editor, and they were pretty active as well. Like, we were always kind of posting, like, maybe around the same time or, like, a day after each other, whatever. And as they posted more edits, I'm realizing, like, this just looks like something that I made. And I was not the only one noticing this. The first person to actually, like, bring this to my attention was another one of my mutuals. They had DM'd me the edit and been like, girl, like, what is this? Like, this just looks like something you had made. And I was getting, like, a lot of DMs like that. People were also commenting on the edits, which, like, I don't advise, like, harassing in comment sections. I think, like, just DMing either person is probably the better way to go to kind of, like, mitigate the amount of public drama. But yeah, I was just getting a lot of messages like that. And the issue with it was that this person was, like, not giving any sort of, like, idea buy or, like, transition credits to me in the caption, which, like, a lot of people did at this point. Like, a lot of people were using different aspects of my style, but they were always remembering to give me credit. So obviously I'm going to be fine with it. Like, we all take inspiration from each other. It's just, like, a lot of people, they want to get away with giving credit because they think that giving credit somehow, like, dilutes the impressivity or, like, I don't know, it just, like, dilutes the significance of their work by, like, attributing it to someone else, which, again, in any artistic, like,
type of thing, that's not the case, because we're always going to be taking inspiration from one another. If I never took inspiration from another editor or tried out different ideas, I'd still be editing the same way I was editing in 2017. I think that's a totally different conversation though, like people just refusing to give credit. It doesn't make you a worse editor. It doesn't make you unoriginal. It doesn't make you uncreative. If anything, it makes you someone who is willing to put in the time to watch other styles and support other people's edits in order to build their own style. But I digress. So this person is not giving me credit, and I'm a very non-confrontational person. I will tell you this, both in real life and also online. Like, unless there is something that is really, really bothering me, I'm just not going to say anything, or I'm just going to like be really nice about it. But this was starting to bother me because it was going on for a couple of edits, and like, I don't know, I feel like people were noticing it, and it was just becoming kind of weird. So I DM'd this person and I was like, hi, like, I just wanted to say, like, I've been getting a lot of messages and also noticing myself that, like, a lot of the times when you're posting edits, like, it just seems to be at least partially inspired by me with no form of credit. And, like, I would just really appreciate it if you could maybe, like, tag me or something, like, if you're using a transition from me or whatever, a stylistic aspect for me. And I felt so bad sending that, guys, because I'm like, I don't want to sound like that person. Like, I know 100% in my mind that they are copying me, but like, I just don't want to come across as like annoying or like full of myself. But I sent that message and they responded with like, oh my God, yeah, like I will totally admit I take inspiration from you. I take inspiration from your transitions, and moving forward, I will credit you. And I was like, okay, like that, this is great. They took full accountability for it and they're planning on crediting me in the future. Like, I was thinking that this went like best case scenario. So I'm like, cool. But in the following months, this just gets worse. I'm talking like the amount that their edits look similar to mine, and then the frequency at which they're doing it. It's not like every other edit or whatever. It's every single edit that they're posting at the same frequency as me. It's basically like there's just like two emo Who from Whovilles, and I was like, oh God. So I did not want to have to message this person back, because I'm like, I already told them what the problem was. They made it seem like they fully understand and we're gonna change, but they didn't. So I was like, the only way to like resolve this at this point is if they can't see my edits. So I just ended up blocking them. And like, I get it, a block may be like kind of a lot, but guys, this had been going on for months. Like, imagine if every single edit you posted, someone was just like lurking in the corner ready to take it, and then like just not give you credit for it. And it's also, the timing of it is also really important, because I would post an edit and let's say like I tried a new transition, their next edit would be like using that exact transition, like the one that I just used and like introduced, that I had never like seen done before. So it was like they weren't even trying to like play it low key, which is also what kind of bothered me, because like for you to take accountability and then to be so like obviously just continuing on with this, I was like, you know what, I have no reason not to block you. So I blocked this person, and then I don't know, it was probably maybe like a month or a couple weeks later, I get a DM on my audio account, which I don't have on Instagram anymore. I get a DM on my audio account from this person, and they're like, hi, I noticed that you blocked me. Like, I'm so sorry. I really would appreciate it if you could unblock me. And I was like, hi, I would be totally willing to unblock you. It's just the fact that like, you know, we had this conversation about the copying, and you made it seem like you were gonna like start giving me credit or just like stop doing what you were doing. And if anything, it just got worse. And like, I took that as disrespectful, and I thought the only solution was to block you, because like, it's obvious at this point that you're going to take my stuff without giving credit. So, and they were like, obviously super apologetic, like, oh, like I didn't like mean to do that, whatever. But here's the kicker, guys. They changed their entire story around. The first time I DM'd them, they said, yes, I 100% take inspiration from you. I probably have these receipts somewhere. They took full accountability, right? The second time we're messaging after I blocked them, they're like, I've had this style since I started my account. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, like, literally since 2018, I've been using these trends. Be so for real right now. So why is it that every time I try out a new transition or try out a new, like, stylistic, like, concept, isn't it just so funny how you happen to have the exact same idea like 2 days later? It's like, wow, great minds think alike. And at this point, I'm like fuming because it's like, girl, you admitted to me like a month ago that yes, you took inspo from me, and now it's suddenly, oh no, I've literally always edited like this. And it was crazy to me because it's like, you can't even lie about this because I haven't even been editing like this since 2017. Obviously, your 2019 style is not the same from your 2017 style. Your style has just become the way my style has developed, your style has developed in the exact same way because you're copying me. So to try to make the argument like your style has always been the same, it's also like I can literally go on your account and see that you were not editing like this 2 years ago. So I was just like, are you so prideful that you can't just like admit that you might be in the wrong and just give me credit? Like, I don't understand. If you like my style so much and you like, I don't know, you enjoy taking inspo from me, all you have to do to like not make anyone mad or like not disrespect anyone is to add their username in the caption. You don't even have to spell out emo who from Whoville. I know it's a mouthful. Just do EWFWV or whatever the acronym is, but okay, I probably like sound like I'm like so mad right now and like popping off, but I haven't thought about this in a while, and retelling the story just like fills me with anger because I'm like, why did they do this? But I don't even remember what the aftermath of that was. I think I probably did unblock them, and they probably like never gave me credit in the future, but I was just like, whatever, like they'll do whatever. No, I actually do remember though, as I like gradually stopped editing Riverdale, like I think they kind of like ran out of like new transition like combos to use for like bughead edits or whatever. And then as I segued into like photo edits, then they started like copying the aspects of my photo edits onto their photo and video edits. So it came to a point where I was like, it's like talking to like a brick wall. And then also at this point, I was like gaining like a little bit on YouTube, and people were like, I guess, recreating my edits and kind of mirroring my style like on a larger scale. So I was like, okay, I can't like really like hone in on one person who's doing it if like a ton of people are doing it. Maybe this is just something that happens. And now in 2023, if I wanted to call out every person who like used my style without any credit or like took inspo from me without any credit, I would be on my phone probably 25 hours a day. And it's something that like just doesn't bother me now because flattery is, you know, or what is it called? What's the quote? Imitation is the best form of flattery. And also, like, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm at like a level of having an amount of followers where like people can watch an edit and it doesn't have to like have me tagged, and they might still think of me, which is like really, really nice. So I'm not like as concerned now for like my artistic like integrity like always getting credited, because I think I've been paid enough respects on this online platform. So I think I'm good with that now. But I think my experience is probably something a lot of editors have gone through. Like maybe someone with more followers than you like stole one of your transition ideas and they got away with it literally just because of that fact. Like they have more followers, less people are seeing your edit, more people are seeing theirs. And here's why I think this happens a lot. I think in the editing community, we value like creativity and innovation a lot. Like when people try out something new or do something you've never seen before, you kind of have to pause and be like, oh my God, like that was really cool. That was super creative. That was super unique. And I feel like those are probably some of the things we value most. And so people want like to receive that sort of feedback and praise and validation from doing something new and innovative. So oftentimes they might just like mirror other people and then kind of play it off as if it's their own idea, kind of out of pride, out of ego, and because they want the respect that comes with like being the original proprietor of an idea. You get what I mean? But here's the thing. If you want that respect, like you just got to come up with something on your own, because the editing community, yeah, it's a big place, but like people also know each other. So like if you're trying to like play off an idea as your own, chances are someone's going to call you out. Like someone knows the original editor and they're going to see your edit, and now you're just going to look like an idiot. But a lot of this stems from, I think, people thinking they're not like worthy of blowing up, or they're not a good editor if they're not bringing something new to the table. And I don't think like you don't necessarily have to be whipping out something like new and never before seen in every single edit to be a good editor and to be worthy of praise. And so if it's a choice between like posting an edit of yours that doesn't necessarily have any unique or original ideas from yourself, as opposed to like posting an edit that emulates someone else's edit with no credit, just post the first one. Like, it's never worth it to kind of be like sneaky and try to avoid giving someone credit, because like morally at the end of the day, it's just not right. And if someone did that to you, you would be so pissed off. And people might also think like, oh, if they don't see it, like it doesn't matter, or like it really like doesn't matter if I'm taking like their whatever and not giving credit because my edit isn't going to get as big as theirs. But it's like, it's the principle of it. Again, you would be so mad if this happened to you. And like, also, if their transition was cool enough for you to like replicate and emulate, wouldn't you want to support them and like shout them out to other editors by giving them credit in the caption? Like, I just don't understand the mental run through of like watching an edit and then being like, wow, this is amazing. This person is so awesome. Let me take that idea and then like completely like gatekeep them from all of my followers and act like they just do not exist. It's like, if you want support from other people, you are gonna have to give support in some form. You can't just like get away with being a snake and then expect people to support you. And I feel like that can oftentimes be what happens in the editing community. Like, people will do some just like not so nice things to put themselves out there and like get themselves on top. But then what after you do that? Like, okay, you have a ton of followers. Do you have people respecting you? Do you have like actual real friends? Do you have any creative integrity? Like, in my opinion, at least, those things are more important than like posting an edit, getting a ton of likes. And I think because of how like numbers oriented the editing community is, like I mentioned in my last episode, people like might not be incentivized or driven by these moral factors. Like, people literally might just not care if they're stealing someone's idea with no credit, like, because they might just not regard that person as a human being. We're not like interacting with people in real life. We might not even know what these people look like. So it's so much easier to rip off someone's stuff and like be rude to them and not give them credit when like there's no real consequences to that. Which is again like another reason why toxicity can really proliferate in the editing community. There really are not like real consequences unless there's like a whole hate train against you, like there was for me during when I posted that Bughead edit. But like, unless it's something like that happening, people do this because they can get away with it. And sometimes like the worst that there is just a comment calling them out. They can delete it. They can block the person. So it's like, it's hard to come up with a clear-cut solution to this. I feel like people are just always going to be ripping each other off. I think it's all just about like looking at other editors as like fellow artists rather than our competitors. And like the whole competitive nature of the editing community, I feel like that can be an entirely like other episode, because it like, as much as people support each other and they'll like edits and tag other people and whatever, the editing community is like also a really competitive place where people like they want more likes and followers than other people. And I feel like when you're driven by that, the numbers, obviously you're going to feel okay with ripping off someone's idea if you know it's going to bring you more attention, right? But if you're more kind of motivated by the artistic aspect of editing and the fact that like we're all just a ton of like really creative people coming together to share work, you wouldn't feel as comfortable like ripping off someone's idea because you know how much time and effort they put into that. And like this might just boil down to a personality difference. Like if you don't regard other editors as real human beings with real emotions and feelings, obviously you're not going to be driven by that moral component. And I said this before, sometimes they're just miserable people. Sometimes they're just bad people. And honestly, you can't let those bad few kind of represent or ruin the editing community for you as a whole. Like, I know the topic of this episode is like drama and toxicity, and that's all I've been talking about, but I just want to like really reinforce the fact that like I feel like this is not a huge portion of the editing community. These are very isolated case scenarios, and you know, it may have even happened to you, but that doesn't mean like it represents the entire editing community. But my advice for like when you realize like someone might be copying your idea without credit or you're getting ripped off, you really, and this might just sound like really hard, you have to have that IDGAF mentality, right? You have to just stop caring, because going back to the story time I told you before, after that initial DM where the person took accountability, but they still continued copying me, I cared so much. And I was DMing my other mutuals and I was like, what do I do? I'm so frustrated, like trying to get this to stop. But after the second DM, when I realized this person wasn't going to stop and they genuinely justified what they were doing in their mind, I was like, okay, why would I try to convince someone of something that they're just not going to believe? Like they can continue copying whoever they want, whatever, but I know at the end of the day, they would never be able to execute these ideas or come up with these ideas on their own. So like I can choose to be offended or I can choose to be flattered and continue going on like as normal. And I chose to be flattered. Did I continue to get copied? 100%. I just didn't let it bother me at this point because I felt the self-satisfaction of like, they can replicate your idea, but you know in your heart this idea came from you. Like you, in this situation, you are the creative one. Like no one can take that from you, the fact that you did this first. So like if they're gonna like piggyback off of everything you do, let them, because there are timestamps, there are witnesses, it's fine. So yeah, I think adapting that IDGAF mentality was like really helpful for me, because if you exhaust all your time and energy into trying to get that credit you think you deserve, like from people who are just not going to give it to you, you're taking time and energy and resources away from making those creative ideas, right? Producing the unique and innovative content. Focus on that. Don't focus on people who are never going to run in, like through their thick skulls that you should probably credit people and that it's really obvious when you're not crediting people. So I think, yeah, just pick your battles wisely and don't take it like super personally, because the same way like they're probably looking at you and your work as like, this isn't a real person, I can steal from them. Give them back that same energy. You're not a real person. You're just a bot who wants to like fool everyone into thinking they're so unique and innovative when really you're just someone who has such a big ego that you can't admit when you're taking inspiration from others. So I think kind of reframing my mindset to that has made me like care a lot less about stuff like that. All right, and I kind of want to just end this episode off by saying, as much as the editing community can be filled with drama and toxicity, I just want to remind you guys that it is also like one of the best online spaces I have ever been a part of. I have made lifelong friends, like I mentioned, from the editing community. Shout out to Eve, Beth, and Nessa. I actually met these three girls on Riverdale Stan Twitter, but then we all had like After Effects editing accounts. If you remember Reinhardt with 2 eyes, or what was LGBT Blossoms, that was Nessa, and then Eve's username, it was Sprouseheart, but the A was a C. That was kind of extraneous information, but just in case anyone remembers them, I met those girls in like 2017, and we still text to this day, and it's so funny because we've like grown up alongside each other, like even personality wise, like the same way we used to get along in 2017, we've all matured in similar ways to like we can talk now as like adults and it still feels like we just like get along in that exact same way. So like do not like deprive yourself, I guess, of the experience of making friends in the editing community, like just because you're scared that people might be rude or they won't like you or you won't fit in. Because like, even though, yeah, you don't need to have editing friends to be able to post edits and get followers, but it really is just such a nice like aspect of the editing community. And I feel like that's also the reason why I've been in it for as long as I have, and why I decided to stay after all these years. It's just because the people I've met along the way are absolutely incredible. And yeah, I just think everyone should at least experience some of that, because it's an incredible online community. And the bullies and the, you know, people who will steal ideas and edits, whatever, that's not everyone. That's such a small percentage. So I just want to encourage you guys to put yourself out there. It can be scary, but the editing community is such a big place. There are definitely people who are gonna match your energy, match your vibes, and you're gonna be so happy that you made some new online friends, because they are awesome. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed. I didn't even intentionally try to make it this much longer than the first one. Perhaps I just had more to talk about or got more comfortable speaking, but I'm glad I got the length to be a little bit longer, so you guys can do longer tasks while watching this. I don't know, instead of cleaning your room, clean the whole house. But yeah, so I hope you guys liked this episode, and you guys can definitely look forward to an episode 3, 4, 5, and beyond, because you guys, this podcast and me just speaking seems to really help you guys and resonate a lot with you guys. And just all the feedback I've received, I'm I really did not think it was gonna be this helpful. So yeah, just thank you guys for listening, and you can DM me on my personal Instagram. It's lolabugxd if you have any specific things you want to you want me to talk about on the pod. I did get some requests for very specific editing related things, like how do you do this transition, or where do you find your backgrounds? And this podcast is not necessarily dedicated to the technical aspect of editing. That's my TikTok and YouTube. This is more just to talk about the social aspect of editing and the things that you're not going to get from tutorials and YouTube videos. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're sending in your request, because I obviously can definitely do tutorials on the technical aspects of editing on my YouTube or my YouTube shorts, but this podcast is more of a deep dive, if you get what I mean. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening today, and bye.